Hey friends, I'm Jamie Maddox, your wealth embodiment mentor. I teach how you are uniquely designed to attract wealth. In this podcast, I talk about body mapping and money. Body mapping is a unique map on your body that gives information, instructions, and direction for you specifically. Each episode, I highlight one area of the body, discuss its features, and more importantly, what that means for you and your money. So welcome. I'm excited to be on this journey together and can't wait to see what your body can teach you about money. Hello, and welcome back to another episode of Your Nose Knows. I am so glad you're here. And can I just say, I love running into people and having them share insights that they've had or episodes that really stuck out to them, and just to hear that people are listening. So I just want to start by saying thank you so much. I super appreciate it. Keep sharing it with your friends, with your family. And if you feel like you want to, I would love as many 5-star reviews as possible, just to help it to continue to grow and to reach more people. Okay, with that said, we are talking about our eyes today. And can I just say, you would not think, okay, maybe it's just me, but I'm like, their eyes. How many different factors could there be? But let me tell you, there are 5 different aspects of eyes. You guys, isn't that crazy? We have the color, their shape, angle, size, and width. So I do like keeping these around 15 minutes because I'm all about short, sweet, to the point. Just give me the information, make it clear, and let's move forward, right? Okay, I'm like, I know where we're going. Let's get there fast. So if it starts to go a little bit long, I might split this into 2 parts, but I don't know. We're going to kind of see. So I really, really love this. And we're going to start with the color of eyes because, it is so fun. And, it's something that I really actually, if I'm really honest with myself, I didn't used to really look at the color of people's eyes. Like, even when I would date somebody, the girlfriends would be like, oh my gosh, what color are his eyes? And I'm like, I don't know. They're like, well, didn't you look into them? And I'm like, well, I probably did, but I don't know. Sometimes that's kind of weird. Okay, so there's my TMI for you. But when I learned this with body mapping and I really started to understand the significance of each of our eyes, I'm like, oh, you better believe I look at people's eyes now because, again, it just gives information, right? And it's so, so beautiful. Okay, we are going to start with green eyes, okay? Green eyes have an eye for value. And so again, kind of going with the euphemisms. So the green-eyed monster, right? So that's one of the ways that you can remember that. Now, a lot of times people might look at others with green eyes and be like, oh, they are maybe not really stuck up, but they're kind of picky. You kind of get my point, right? And the thing is that they kind of sometimes can come across that way because, as always, there's the light and the shadow of something. So sure, if someone really is very particular about the value and doing the research and being very picky, it can come across as being snobby or whatnot, right? But the thing is that green-eyed people really see value and they see authenticity. And so and remember, this can go with not just objects, but also people, okay? So green-eyed people will tend to do a lot of research. So here's a real life tip for you. If you want to buy something that is high quality for the lowest amount of money, find someone with green eyes, and they will usually be the person that can tell you that, okay? Because they're going to have done the research on the different products. They're going to look at the pros and cons because they are looking for value. They're looking for the real thing. They're like, I want something that's going to last, that is good, that has these features that I'm looking for, and I'm also wanting to get a good deal on it, right? So, or just start noticing the green-eyed people in your life if they do this, okay? I have 2 colors of eye, or 2 colors in my eyes. There we go. And I'll talk about that at the end. But again, I'm like, oh my gosh, I totally do this. Like, I'm like, oh yeah, I will research all this stuff because I want to find the best deal with the best product. And so it's been fun for me to start looking and watching and seeing which of my green eyed friends also do this, right? And this goes for the people too in their lives. They can sometimes be considered stuck up because they're like, well, if that person's not being authentic and they quote unquote don't have a value in my life, then they're not going to be in their life, right? So I have one mentor, and she mentioned once that she has a lot of clients with green eyes. And I was like, oh my gosh, that means a lot of people see a lot of value in you, because green eyed people really stick around with the people that they see value in. Now, please do not mistake this for if you're like, oh my gosh, none of my friends have green eyes. That's not what I'm saying. It does not mean that you don't personally have value, because it's in the perception, right? It's the perception of the person with that color of eyes. So again, our individual value does not change. And what we perceive as valuable could be completely valueless to someone else, and vice versa. Okay, so remember, it comes down to our perception. Okay, so there's green eyes. Blue eyes tend to be the most sensitive. They actually have the most rods and cones in their eyes biologically. So when they go out into the sun, their eye actually does open up and bring in more light than the other colors. So I know a lot of blue-eyed people, when they go outside, sometimes they'll like sneeze or like have an automatic eye closing sensation. And it is simply because they bring in so much light that their body has to like stop for a second, readjust, and then they can open them again. Okay. So again, start noticing who has blue eyes. Do they tend to sneeze or something when they walk outside and have that more of that light coming in? Does their body do something to adjust for that light? Okay, fascinating, right? The other really awesome thing about eyes in general is that not only does it help us to see our physical world, but our eyes can also help us to see the energetic and spiritual world too. Okay. And blue-eyed people, because they are the most sensitive and tend to be the most emotional, they are actually also the ones that tend to be able to see the unseen. So to see the things that are not part of the physical world. Now, I know, I'm sure a lot of you are like, I have blue eyes and I don't do that. Or I don't have that gift. Or I know so-and-so and they don't have that. Okay, well, let's be honest. When you're young and you maybe start seeing things that you're like, I'm pretty sure that's not part of the physical world, there's a good chance that you shut down your gift, okay? Because all of our spiritual gifts can be opened and grown and expanded, and they can also be closed down, shrunk in, and turned off. And there's also a dimmer switch in between, when you think of it like a light switch, okay? So if you're the person with the blue eyes and you're like, I don't have that gift, I want you to go back to your younger years, and probably pretty young. And maybe you don't remember, and that is totally okay. But I want you to just kind of like tune into that, and just kind of just start thinking about it and see if maybe you had an experience where you may have picked up on seeing the unseen and you chose to close that off, because it can be scary when you don't know what's going on. And here's the beautiful thing is, once you have this awareness, you can then work with yourself to feel safe enough to turn on your gift again. Again, you also have a dimmer switch. So you can say, okay, we're going to turn it on slowly, and maybe a little bit more. Oh, we need to back it off. Or, hey, this situation, I really don't want to see anything. We're going to turn it off for a minute. Oh, this situation, it would actually be really beneficial. Let's turn that all the way on, right? Okay, so you actually do have some control and some flexibility with this, okay? And I would love to hear if you do have blue eyes, if you can see the unseen, or if you have turned it off or turned it back on. I would love to hear some of those experiences. You can also, I don't know if I've mentioned this anywhere, but you can also email me. It's healinghopewithjamie@gmail.com. And Jamie, just FYI, is spelled for me, Jamie. Does get spelled wrong a lot, which is fine, but just want to clarify on that. Okay. Also, just because you don't have blue eyes doesn't mean you can't have the gift of sight. Okay. They just have a more natural ability. And like I said, they usually had it from birth. And whereas those of us that maybe don't have blue eyes, it's just something that we get to more actively choose into. And we might have to work a little bit more diligently to get that gift to turn on. Okay. Because we can all have every gift. We just get to choose and decide and then work on developing them. Okay. Okay, brown eyes. They have a natural filter. Now, this is actually kind of a beautiful gift in a lot of cases because if, say, someone grows up in maybe a very abusive environment and they have brown eyes, they can actually naturally filter out some of the things they're seeing, and they may or may not take as much of it in and internalize as much of it. And so a lot of times you'll see a little bit more resiliency when children have darker or, brown or dark brown eyes if they grow up in an abusive home because they've had this natural filter. Now, another way that I've seen this work is, so my daughter has really dark brown eyes and she can watch scary movies all day long. Me, on the other hand, I'm like, oh no, please, that will be seared into my soul for the rest of eternity. I do not need that. I will be scared for the rest of my life. Okay. And for her, she's like, it's not even that big of a deal. Okay. Now, are there other factors that also contribute to this? Absolutely. But again, when I learned this, I was like, well, that makes sense. She has really dark eyes. She literally has this filter that allows her to see things or to not see things that I will maybe see without those filters. Does that make sense? Now, as always, there's, the pros and the cons, the light and the shadow with all of it, right? Because sometimes people with darker eyes, brown eyes, might miss some things that could be really beneficial, right? So again, it's that awareness to be like, okay, I might filter things, but that doesn't mean mine is the only right perception. Am I missing something because I'm filtering too much of it out before it actually gets to me? Okay, so those are some of the questions to ask. Okay, hazel eyes. Hazel eyes, they have quite a few mood changes. Okay, so they tend to be the most, I don't want to use the word moody because it's not that, but they just have quicker and higher ups and lows. So they usually feel the highest highs and the lowest lows. Okay, and the color of their eyes will change with their moods. Now, I know a lot of people, or at least when I talk to different people, sometimes they're like, oh my gosh, I don't know what color my eyes are. Or, even for me, like I was taught my whole life growing up that my eyes were hazel. Okay. And then as I started really, getting into personal development and started paying, well, like I said at the beginning, if I wasn't looking at other people's eyes, I really was not looking at my own eyes. Let's just be real, right? Okay. So when I started looking at my own eyes, because we always start with ourselves first, right? I realized that I was like, I don't have hazel eyes. I actually have green in the center with a blue line around it. Okay. The way to get the most precise color of your eye is after you cry. Okay. So whether you go and intentionally cry right now, or you happen to have a situation in your life that, where you start to cry, I invite you to look at your eyes right after you finish crying, because you have literally just cried out emotions and chemicals and toxins, and your eyes are pure after you cry. Okay. So look at your eyes, find your color, because if you have hazel eyes, I want you to embrace that. I want you to know that you do feel deeply and you do tend to have emotions that change very quickly. And it's not a bad thing. But having that awareness, number one, it's less because I see a lot of hazel eyes people wanting to shame themselves for having that much emotion. Whereas in this context, it's like, oh no, just let me feel it. And I just know that I'm going to have some higher highs and lower lows. And I'm meant to be this way. Now, that doesn't excuse, rude, negative, abusive behaviors by any means. But what it does say is you, as the hazel-eyed person, can say, hey, I need a minute. And here's what I need. Or can you hold me while I feel this emotion and process it? And then again, that also gives us the people around you more understanding of you and how to support you and show up for you better in the way that will actually be supportive for you. Okay, so the last color is amber colored eyes. So this is kind of like the yellowish, that amber, but kind of goes along with the yellow too. Kind of like the cat eyes almost. They are very, very, very sensitive, okay? And they tend to add light to everything. They are very light. And kind of think of the green eyes with, so they have a bit of like the green-eyed traits, and then it's like amplified, okay? Because they're bringing in more light, they're more sensitive, and so it's like all of the things about the value and the authenticity and, just wanting to have things be real and with a little bit of extra light in there, okay? So with all of these, when you find the color of your eyes, check if it is two colored. Because like I said, for me, a lot of years, I always put hazel on all of my driver's licenses. And now I'm like, well, am I claiming blue or am I claiming green? I usually put green because that's the bigger majority of my eyes. But you get choice, right? And here's the thing is, how much better did that help me to understand myself? And because when things are closer to the center of our body, it indicates more of our internal world. Things that are on the more outer parts of our body indicate more of our outer world, okay? So when you start to combine the two colors, it's like for me, I do see a lot and I'm very sensitive outwardly. And then when we get closer to my inner world, I really dig into the value, which, hi, what do I do for a living, right? I teach people about money and their value and how to transform that relationship, right? So let me know what color of eyes you have and if any of this stood out to you or what stood out to you and how it will help you to change the perception of yourself. Now, I'm like, okay, we're getting so close. I actually am. I'm going to do a second part to this. So I'm going to leave you in suspense, but that was a lot of information because just the color of someone's eyes can indicate so much and give so much clarity, give so much understanding, not only to help you, but to help you understand others. And here's the thing, when we start to see how we are seeing the world, we start to see how we are seeing our money. And when we can understand how we see our money, we get to interact with it differently. It gives us more choice. Because just like I said, I've known that I'm always looking for the best deal. Now that I know that my eyes also indicate that, I can lean into that. And I can also be like, okay, Jamie, stop. You have wasted way more time researching than just buying the thing that was like $5 extra. And you know what? They're probably close to the same value and will probably last about the same amount of time. Okay. So for me, it gives me a little bit of a cutoff point so that I don't get too deep into it. Right. And also with people, if I suddenly am feeling a little bit judgmental with somebody, it helps me to just step back and remind myself, oh, you're right. Thank you, green eyes. Let's take a look at this relationship again. Same thing with money. If I start to feel a little bit negative or have something that is irking me about money, it helps me to step back and just reevaluate it. So let me know, how will this help you with your money? How will you see yourself and how you interact with money differently? And I'm excited for part 2. So get ready and we'll see you next week. Thanks for listening. Make sure to check back each week for the newest content about your body and your wealth. If you've enjoyed this episode, please share with your friends and give it a 5-star review. Make sure to visit healinghopewithjamie.com for new offers, retreats, and ways to embody your wealthy life.